Well, hi everyone, here we are again. It's Mr. Mars here out on the west coast of Australia. This time it's all about this, the railroad spike knife. If you want to see me build this, keep watching. Yeah, so here we are out in the workshop. Excuse the messy workshop by the way, but I'm still trying to figure out the best way for me to do this. Do these intros, which angle to film it from and all this kind of thing. Bear with me, I'm using various cameras, various setups and seeing what works for me, but I've done my best. I will say at the outset, some of the footage for this build I lost, but I'll explain as I go along. I'm going to attempt to do a voiceover this time and see how that works for me. So, let's get to it. Okay everyone, well here, this is it, this is the only clip I've got, and yeah, don't know where it went, but hey, at least this is the very same knife and you can see me part way through the process, but that's all you're going to get, so sorry about that. Anyway, so now I've got this process underway of cleaning it up. It's a constant checking of what I'm doing. I'm not really sure what kind of finish I'm going to get on this. I've got the belt hanging over there just so that I can get into that corner there a little bit more, but it's not really sure what to do, whether to grind the whole thing flat or what, so I'm constantly looking at it saying what should I do next with this thing. So this is a 50 grit ceramic belt, and gingerly working at it, various bits of it, to get it cleaned up, trying to figure out what looks best. And as I say, cleaning little bits of it up as I go. I've put all this is the first thing I've properly forged. I put a lot of effort into it and I don't really want to ruin it. It's just going to be almost a souvenir almost for myself as the first proper forging knife that I'm going to build. So, and a railroad spike knife is not that brilliant anyway. If anyone knows the carbon content roughly of a railroad spike knife, this thing ended up being fairly soft, so I would think, I don't know, somewhere between 0.4, 0.5 carbon content. So if anybody knows, just note it in the description and try and share that information. So this grinder is from Artisan Supplies over in Eastern States. Everything I get needs to be shipped to the west or from overseas. It's always a problem for us, paying a lot for postage, a lot and a long wait to get stuff a lot of the time. But Artisan Supplies are good. I mean, you know, easy to work with. They give me a call if there's any issues, and all the Australian knife makers will be familiar with that. So anyway, now as you can see here, I've cleaned it up quite a lot, taken out some of the boring grinding and cleaning, just checking for straightness. This one now is a, I suppose it's a slightly worn out 180 grit belt. It seems to be doing a good job, at least at this stage. Now, I didn't really know exactly how to grind this, as I was saying earlier. I just decided in the end that I was getting a much better overall blended finish if I just put it on this soft part of the belt up here and blend the dips and peaks all together, because ultimately in the forging process obviously I've got very inconsistent thicknesses throughout, and I was going to end up grinding the whole thing so thin to get them all out that it really wasn't going to work too well, I believed anyway. So this is why I went with what I got. So after a reasonable amount of cleaning up on the 180 grit belt, blending this sort of convex profile in it, I then switched to, believe it or not, a Scotch-Brite belt. Just got a whole bunch of these belts and more or less trying them out for the first time, so I was quite curious to know how they would perform. And I must say I am quite impressed with them. They surprisingly they generate a lot of heat, but you do get this nice silky finish on there. I think there you go, almost immediately. And some blemishes on there I just gave up on. No matter how much I ground it, at least on that green 180 belt, I was never really going to get them out. So I knew this wasn't going anywhere, except there's something to stick on the wall and for me to look at as my first proper forging project. So I thought, well, I'll just keep moving on. Heat treating time. So this forge, fired that up. As you can see, it's homemade. I actually made the burner as well. Got a new forge build underway. I'll try and film that if I can as well. We are talking about gas. Don't want to blow myself up. So anyway, getting knife up towards critical temperature, and I've got a magnet here that I'm going to test it on. And I wasn't too concerned about the handle area or the tang area, really. I don't mind leaving that very soft. You're not going to get this thing very hard anyway, so I don't think it matters too much. So here I go. I've actually got another knife in there I'm doing at the same time, which, interesting, if you hang in there enough you'll see something interesting there. So here I am. That's non-magnetic except the back there, so I just decided that's enough for me. And I don't dunk it in too fast. I am a bit worried about cracking and so on. That has happened before. And I was just about to say, if you hang in there enough, you'll see what happens to this knife that is in the forge currently. There you go. Now that's gone. That's gone kind of a nice grey colour, which I'd expect. I think this is about as hard as this is going to get. Perhaps I could have taken it up a little hotter, but no, it seemed right to me. Yes, the end is still hot. Alright, so it came out nice and straight, or at least as straight as I put it in there. So, testing it here, not too bad. Does seem to be reasonably hard, as hard as I can get it, I think. Definitely different from the spine area to the blade. So there you go, happy with that. Now, this is the interesting part. Watch what happens here. This is quite a stuff up here coming up. I worked a lot on this blade that's in the forge, nice and hot, but it's spring steel and not experienced in any way. It's very hot, as you can see. It's completely non-magnetic. Put it in water and gingerly at first, but I don't know if you can even hear it, but pop, pop, pop. You can even see there, it's starting to get a hell of a warp on it. So, I've heard it, I know it's happened. I just didn't really want to look at it. Anyway, you can actually see it there, and I'm pointing them out now. There's one, there's two, there is another one further up. If you look carefully, you can see it. Anyway, I know it's buggered. And it's very hard. I thought I'd test it anyway, just for the sake of it. Yeah, but not much I can do with that. There's the warp, huge warp. Oh well. Better luck next time. Should have dunked it in oil, at least canola oil or something like that. No, but water's, there you go. Disappointed in that. Anyway, back to this. I've got a new camera now, or a new camera, it's just the other camera. It's my DSLR. Got a video function on it, high def and all the rest of it, so I can get in and get some good shots in there. My lighting, as you can see, is very yellow. It's just some ordinary, it's not tungsten or LED, it's just normal spotlight. I'll have to change that, but hey, at least you can get a fairly good view of it. But again, I'm focused more on the grinder and cleaning up with the knife than I am on the result that I'm getting. But you can see here that I go back to this 180 grit belt, which in the meantime I've done a fair bit of timber shaping on it, because as I said, this is, I don't know, fairly soft. I didn't want to go too far with it, too fast I should say. So I cleaned it up as much as I could with the 180 belt, and now I'm onto this because I had a reasonable result. I just wanted to see, I haven't really cleaned it up enough, but I just wanted to see how far I'd get with it, how far it would take me I should say. And not too bad really. And I'm continually working it, trying to get it nice and clean and tidy. Now you're all gonna say, what? No tempering? That's the other bit that I lost. I tempered it. I tempered it for an hour at, I think it was about 350 degrees. I didn't want to temper it too much because I believe that this blade is not that hard anyway, so I mean, honestly I reckon I could have left it without tempering and I reckon it wouldn't have been too bad. But I did temper it to a straw colour. Now, after getting the blade reasonably cleaned up, just cleaning this profile up a little bit, now I'm on to the bevel. This little jig here I made, it's just a mild steel one. I wanted to test the principle, and the old jig that I was using, you can see here, I should really pause that, but you can see here there's just a piece of square tubing with a recess cut in, and that slots into it. I bolt it down and it keeps it really nice and tight, and it's not bad, it actually works really well. But there are problems with it. You can see the grind here coming along. I've got a bit of a dip there where that dark is, and that is the thin section of the blade that I couldn't get out, and that's why I'm having so much hassle trying to get that right. It's going high up near the ricasso, so I've got to address that. And I don't get a successful grind on this knife, but I do to some degree make a successful now this is a bit of a wobbly grind, but I do correct it to a large degree. Yeah, so again, taking it steady, getting a reasonable grind there. Kind of a strange looking one, but it's not too bad. So whilst I'm doing this, I might mention that I've been interested in knives for a long time, ever since I was a kid. I worked for a few years as a butcher, got into knives and had my own knives, my own collection for butchering. And of course I looked after them, sharpened and cleaned them every day, began to understand a bit about the different steel that's involved in making a good knife or not. And as I say, I've been interested in it ever since. So I grew up in England, I came to Australia and really wanted to get into it, continued my collection, which I'll show you all at some point, but got into collecting them, and I knew one day that I'd start making them, and now I'm in my 50s, it's time that I stopped watching so many knife build videos and got into making my own. So here I go, started my own YouTube channel. I don't know where it's going, but I enjoy doing it. Yeah, but I used to make knives by hand. I literally had a little file jig set up, and they were for my own personal use. All of those now have either gone or given away or broken. I'm not sure where they are. Made a few recently again, you know, as I was getting back into it. I used a homemade grinder that I built from a treadmill, and honestly that was I called it the Monster. Maybe I'll show you that at some point. I've dismantled it now and abandoned it, but it did work. I made a few knives with it. And got serious, bought a grinder from Artisan Supplies. Moving onwards and upwards, hopefully. But the main thing is here, learning how to film everything, or angle, remembering to show the camera, because the whole point of filming it is to show people that are watching, and that I keep forgetting to do. You can see here, you can barely see it, I'm in the way. And that wobbly grind, but that's what I'm talking about. It's the thickness, various thicknesses of the spine itself. And anyway, live and learn. It's only a railroad spike knife. So yeah, here I'm thinking, is it me? Is it the thickness of the knife spine? Is it the jig not set up? There's a bit of a wobble in there. Okay. Gotcha. Alright, so we're going through this process of grinding, constantly swapping this backwards and forwards, trying to even the grind, even the bevel.